House MD had some episodes that were so completely insane, they made you question whether the writers had lost their minds or were secretly geniuses. So today, I'm going to show you 12 episodes where House goes so far off the rails that you'll wonder how any of this stuff ever made it to television. Starting with one that involves a supermodel and the most disturbing medical secret you've ever heard. Season 2, Episode 13, Skin Deep, starts when a teenage supermodel collapses on the runway during a fashion show. It seems like a straightforward case until House decides to investigate the toxic world of fashion, addiction, and abuse that surrounds his patient. House's ethical boundaries completely vanish as he pursues his diagnosis. He performs physical tests on the teenage patient to confirm his suspicions about their biological gender, ignoring every professional standard about patient consent and privacy. The team watches in horror as House pushes deeper into territory that would get most doctors arrested. He's not just investigating symptoms, he's conducting invasive examinations based on hunches that cross every line of medical ethics. The climax reveals a traumatic history of sexual abuse and a medical secret so shocking that House's team struggles to process what they've discovered. The patient's entire identity has been built around hiding biological realities that House exposes without any regard for the psychological damage. This episode shows House's near-obsessive disregard for social and medical norms when he thinks he's onto something big. He's willing to traumatize a teenage patient and destroy their carefully constructed life just to satisfy his need to be right about a diagnosis. House gets so obsessed with beating an old rival that he almost kills his patient to prove a point. Distractions, from Season 2, Episode 12, introduces a young man who's been badly burned in a fire, but House is more interested in outsmarting an old medical rival than actually providing patient care. House becomes completely obsessed with proving his diagnostic theory is superior to his competitor's approach. The patient's actual well-being becomes secondary to House's need to demonstrate his intellectual superiority over someone he considers inferior. House performs unauthorized risky tests on the burn victim, including injecting the patient with migraine medications just to observe the results. He's literally using a suffering person as a test subject for his medical ego battle. He manipulates both his team and the patient's family to get access for more dangerous experiments. House lies about the necessity of certain procedures and hides the risks from people who trust him to prioritize their loved one's health. By the end of the episode, House's single-mindedness borders on clinical recklessness. He's crossed the line from confident doctor to dangerous obsessive, willing to risk a patient's life to win an argument with a colleague he dislikes. The episode blurs the line between medical genius and complete madness, showing how House's competitive nature can override every ethical consideration when his ego is involved. House literally starts stalking people like a serial killer to solve a medical case. Season 2, Episode 7, Hunting, showcases House at his most aggressive and invasive when his team encounters a man with HIV and a life-threatening infection that's proving difficult to diagnose. House becomes convinced that the patient's companion is hiding critical information that could save the man's life. Instead of using normal medical interview techniques, House decides to launch a personal investigation that crosses into criminal behavior. House begins staking out the patient's home, watching their daily routines and following them around town like he's conducting surveillance on suspected criminals. He's turned medical diagnosis into a stalking operation. The situation escalates when House deliberately provokes a physical confrontation with the patient's companion, hoping that stress and anger will reveal whatever secrets he thinks they're hiding. House's risky, invasive interventions push his team's ethical tolerance to the breaking point. They're watching their boss behave like a dangerous stalker who happens to have a medical degree rather than a doctor trying to help patients. This episode demonstrates House's habitual disregard for personal and professional boundaries when he thinks someone is lying to him. He's willing to commit crimes and endanger people if he believes it will lead to a medical breakthrough. House's team member kills himself with no warning, and House completely loses his mind trying to find a reason. Simple explanation. From Season 5, Episode 20, starts with a complex medical case involving Charlotte and her terminally ill husband Eddie, but the episode is completely derailed by shocking news that changes everything. Dr. Kuttner, one of House's team members, is found dead in his apartment in what appears to be suicide. The news hits the hospital like a bomb because there were no warning signs, no goodbye note, and no explanation for why a successful young doctor would kill himself. House's reaction to Kuttner's death reveals his complete inability to accept that some things in life can't be solved like medical puzzles. He becomes obsessed with finding a logical explanation for the suicide, refusing to believe that human behavior can be truly unpredictable. House descends into paranoia and obsession, insisting that Kuttner must have been murdered or that there's some hidden medical condition that explains his decision. He can't accept that someone he worked with every day could make such a choice without leaving clear evidence. The episode shows House's psychological breakdown when faced with a mystery that has no satisfying answer. His usual confidence and intellectual superiority crumble when confronted with the randomness and senselessness of sudden loss. The team struggles to continue their medical work while processing grief, guilt, and confusion about someone they thought they knew, but House's complete inability to cope makes everything worse for everyone around him. House's jealousy reaches a level where he literally tries to kill people with his car. Season 7, Episode 23, Moving On, brings House's obsession with Dr. Cuddy to its most dangerous climax when he discovers she's in a serious relationship with another man. House has been unable to handle his romantic feelings for Cuddy, but seeing her happy with someone else pushes him completely over the edge into territory that crosses from emotional instability into attempted murder. House gets in his car and deliberately crashes it through the wall of Cuddy's house while she and her boyfriend are inside. This isn't an accident or a moment of poor judgment. It's a calculated act of violence designed to hurt or kill the people who've made him feel rejected. The car crash is both literal and symbolic destruction. House physically destroys Cuddy's home and sense of safety while also shattering the last remnants of his self-control and connection to normal human behavior. This dangerous, reckless display marks House's absolute psychological rock bottom. He's moved beyond being a difficult colleague or an emotionally unavailable friend into being a genuine threat to people's safety. The fallout from the car crash forces everyone around House to confront the reality that his brilliant medical mind is housed in someone who might be genuinely dangerous when he doesn't get what he wants. House's mind starts creating alternate realities that are so weird they break the entire show. Bombshells, from Season 7, Episode 15, begins with Dr. Cuddy facing a potential cancer diagnosis, but House's reaction to the stress triggers a complete psychological breakdown that manifests in the strangest way possible. House lapses back into heavy Vicodin use, and his mind starts creating elaborate fantasy sequences to avoid dealing with the reality of potentially losing Cuddy to cancer. The episode becomes a surreal ride through House's psychological defense mechanisms. Viewers are subjected to wild dream sequences, including a sitcom parody complete with laugh track, a zombie apocalypse scenario, and even musical numbers that come out of nowhere. Each fantasy sequence reflects a different aspect of House's avoidant psyche as he tries to escape from emotions he can't process. The chaos of these sequences completely disrupts the show's usual medical drama tone and pacing. The stylistic unpredictability leaves the audience feeling unmoored and confused, which perfectly mirrors House's mental state as he loses his grip on reality rather than face the possibility of genuine loss. House's complete mental instability transforms the entire episode into something that barely resembles the show viewers thought they were watching, proving that his psychological problems have reached a level where they're affecting the very structure of reality around him. House gets locked in a mental hospital and immediately starts trying to drive everyone else insane. Season 6, Episode 1, Broken, opens with House involuntarily committed to a psychiatric hospital following a complete breakdown caused by his Vicodin addiction and increasingly severe hallucinations. House refuses to accept that he needs help and immediately begins treating the psychiatric hospital like a new playground for his manipulative games. He starts studying the other patients and staff members to figure out how to exploit their weaknesses. House alternately befriends and torments fellow patients, turning group therapy sessions into opportunities for psychological manipulation and mind games. He sows chaos among the hospital staff by playing patients against each other and undermining treatment protocols. He becomes convinced that proving his supposed sanity or finding a way to escape is more important than actually addressing the mental health crisis that landed him in the hospital in the first place. House's journey from denial to grudging acceptance is filled with volatile moments, including public meltdowns, wild accusations against staff members, and unlikely friendships with patients who see through his defensive mechanisms. The episode shows House's complete inability to accept help even when he's facing the total collapse of his professional and personal life, and his instinct to turn every human interaction into a power struggle or intellectual competition. House almost kills himself with drugs and alcohol while trying to save a patient from his hotel room. Out of the Chute, from Season 7, Episode 16, finds House dealing with heartbreak and emotional collapse by checking into a luxury hotel for what becomes a multi-day bender of self-destruction. House consumes dangerous amounts of alcohol and painkillers while hiring a parade of sex workers, creating a hotel room environment that looks more like a rock star's final overdose than a doctor's temporary retreat. The insanity escalates when House decides he's still capable of managing life-and-death medical cases remotely from his drug and alcohol-fueled hotel suite. He's literally performing high-stakes medical consultations while coming close to overdosing. House insists on guiding his team through a hazardous surgery on a patient with life-threatening conditions, all while he's barely conscious and surrounded by evidence of his complete psychological breakdown. His team operates in crisis mode, simultaneously trying to save their patient's life while fearing that House might die from his overdose before the surgery is complete. The episode shows House's self-destructive behavior reaching levels where he's actively trying to kill himself while still maintaining his need to control medical situations, creating a perfect storm of professional responsibility and personal catastrophe. House decides to drug his best friend just to prove a point about depression. Season 3, Episode 22. Resignation features one of House's most disturbing violations of personal boundaries when he decides to secretly dose Dr. MPS Wilson with amphetamines without his knowledge or consent. House becomes convinced that Wilson isn't actually suffering from depression or insomnia, but simply needs chemical stimulation to function normally. Instead of discussing this theory or suggesting Wilson see a psychiatrist, House decides to conduct an unauthorized human experiment. House spikes Wilson's coffee with amphetamines over several days, turning his best friend into an unwitting test subject for his psychological theories about depression and brain chemistry. Wilson's behavior becomes increasingly erratic as the drugs take effect, but he has no idea why he's suddenly experiencing mood swings, energy fluctuations, and other side effects from medication he doesn't know he's taking. The episode reveals a massive breach of trust between friends and colleagues when Wilson discovers what House has done. House's casual violation of even the most basic ethical boundaries shows his willingness to treat anyone, including people who trust him, as experimental subjects. House's justification that he was trying to help Wilson by proving a point about his mental health demonstrates his complete inability to understand that drugging someone without consent is both illegal and morally inexcusable. House gambles with a patient's life while you're trapped inside their paralyzed body watching it happen. Locked In from Season 5, Episode 19, is told almost entirely from the perspective of a patient with locked-in syndrome who is fully conscious and aware but unable to move or speak except for blinking his eyes. The episode puts viewers inside the mind of someone who can hear and understand everything happening around them but can't communicate or control their body, creating a claustrophobic nightmare scenario. House and his team debate invasive, risky diagnostic procedures while the patient is trapped inside his paralyzed body, listening to them discuss cutting into his brain to confirm their theories about his condition. House recklessly pushes for a dangerous brainstem biopsy, essentially gambling with the patient's life to satisfy his need for diagnostic certainty. The patient can hear every word of these discussions, but can't object or consent to the procedures. The unusual narrative structure creates mounting tension as viewers experience the terror of being unable to communicate while doctors debate potentially fatal treatments based on incomplete information. House's relentless quest to unlock the mystery of a silent mind builds a sense of claustrophobic chaos, with the patient serving as both the puzzle to be solved and the terrified observer of his own potential medical execution. House's patient turns out to be a cannibal who's been eating people, and nobody knows if he's still dangerous. House and his team encounter what initially appears to be a straightforward case involving a homeless man with mysterious symptoms, but the diagnosis takes a horrifying turn when they discover their patient is a cannibalistic serial killer wanted for multiple murders. The revelation that their patient has been killing and eating people throws the entire medical team into panic and revulsion. They're suddenly faced with the reality that they've been providing medical care to someone who represents a genuine threat to human life. The hospital becomes filled with police officers, FBI agents, and horrified staff members who realize they've been in close contact with a cannibalistic murderer who might still be dangerous despite his medical condition. The team faces rolling ethical dilemmas about whether they should continue treating someone who's committed such horrific crimes, while also dealing with their own fear and disgust at what their patient has done. The bizarre nature of the case creates a horror movie atmosphere in the hospital as staff members struggle with questions about medical ethics, public safety, and their own revulsion at having to provide care for someone who's eaten human beings. The episode combines medical mystery with genuine terror as everyone involved grapples with the knowledge that they're trying to save the life of someone who might kill and eat them if given the opportunity. An infectious disease starts spreading through the hospital, and House has to choose who lives and who dies. Euphoria Parts 1-2 from Season 2, Episodes 20 and 21, begins with what seems like a manageable case involving a police officer experiencing uncontrollable laughter and euphoria, but quickly spirals into a near-apocalyptic medical emergency. The patient's symptoms reveal themselves to be part of a rapidly progressing, unknown infectious disease that could be fatal, but the real crisis begins when Dr. Foreman contracts the same illness after exposure during the investigation. The hospital goes into lockdown as staff members realize they're dealing with a potentially deadly contagious disease that could spread throughout the building, putting hundreds of lives at risk. House and his remaining team members are forced to work under quarantine conditions while racing against time to identify and treat a disease that's killing people in real time, including one of their own colleagues. The emotional and professional stakes create wild swings between black comedy and harrowing suspense as House pushes increasingly risky interventions while desperation grows among the medical team. House is forced into making life-or-death decisions about experimental treatments while the hospital fills with fear, panic, and the possibility that everyone involved might die from exposure to an unknown pathogen. The two-part episode creates a perfect storm of medical chaos, institutional panic, and personal terror as House's usual diagnostic confidence is tested by a disease that threatens to kill everyone he works with. If you want to see the baddest House episodes, click the video on screen.